Welcome to the Coach V Show, your Hollywood radio show for personal development with expert insights and interviews to help you, me, and we work to be our best and live your best life. Offering for your consideration these success frameworks, behavioral models, and life lessons that if you should find value in them, that you subscribe, ting, check, and deploy it all over your life, leadership, and business. Here on the Coach V Show, where iron sharpens iron, together we rise, on the Island City Media Group, broadcast from the Radio Studios, Hollywood, California, coming at you from the Famecast Studios in Santa Monica, California. Today on the Coach V Show, we have the man. Now, I coach, but this guy coaches the best of them in every industry and in professional sports, where Manu, in the Samoan language, Manumalo means victorious. A name he embodies. Manu's life has been a masterclass in resilience and transformation, from overcoming profound adversities like childhood homelessness, losing a parent as a teenager, going over his own mental struggles, to playing college football and rising all the way to the NFL, and subsequently facing his own mental challenges. His journey epitomizes strength. An early exit from the NFL didn't deter him, but a catalyst as a passion for understanding the intricacies of mental performance. His passion led him to earn a master's degree in sports and performance psychology, and he is now in the final year, finished, of your doctorate? Finishing his doctorate. A doctorate, my man. Combining his lived experiences, athletic prowess, and academic acumen, Manu is an empathetic guide with an authentic, vibrant, and infectious, optimistic attitude. He guides the world's best athletes, and performers and entrepreneurs towards mental strength and peak performance. Former NFL athlete with the New York Giants, Masters of Arts in Sports and Performance Psychology, finishing up his doctorate in clinical psychology, and a mental performance coach with the cheat code and the Tennessee Titans of the National Football League. Welcome to the Coach V Show, your boy, Coach Manu. What up, boy? Welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I gotta say, this has been a long time coming, whether we really recognize this or not. We spoke beforehand, just the mutual connection that we had. And so I just knew that this moment was gonna happen when it needed to, and now's the time.
Oh, divine timing. Who knows that our time is something that we're always looking at and trying to schedule, but divine timing comes on time, right? So shout out to Big Pana. Shout out to your cousin. Go ahead, go do the quick shout out.
You already know, man, we locked in, bro. I knew that this moment was about to come, and here it is. Stay tuned. This is about to be an epic conversation rooted in God.
Amen and amen. So talk to us, introduce us to your parents, to your ainga, and talk to us about where it is that you grew up.
Yeah, sure. As you eloquently described, in that intro, for me, I'm from the West Coast. I was born in Tacoma, Washington.
T-Town,
Yep.
Shout out T-Town, yeah.
I don't know much about it. My parents relocated when I was a year old to Southern California in East LA, Hacienda Heights to be specific.
Yeah.
My father was a Faifeao. He was a minister, helping his younger brother build a church. And so in the church community, he was a very well-respected member in our community. And unfortunately, behind closed doors, it was a different version that myself and my brothers, and unfortunately my mother, experienced just as a result of him dealing with his own internal challenges that resulted in different types of abuse: emotional, spiritual, psychological, church hurt. And having to endure that as a young child, it really developed a learned sense of helplessness in me, that as my mother, who on the other hand has severely dealt with untreated and undiagnosed schizophrenia and borderline personality disorder. And so you can imagine the youngest of three boys who's a mama's boy, and all you see is your mom struggling, and you want to do something, yet you don't know how. That's where that learned helplessness was created and embedded in me as such a young child. But I knew that what I was experiencing at that time of my life, that there was always something better. There was always something different. I grew up homeless, like you mentioned. We panhandled, we begged people for food and money, to the point where whatever we were able to gather at the end of that day, whether it be 80 cents to get a half tank of gas back in the day, or if it was a few dollars to make sure we got a hotel at the end of the day, man, we were extremely grateful. And it was because of that deep desire for me. I didn't know, I'm a pastor's kid, and I didn't know what faith was back in the day. It was just what I knew, but I didn't realize the faith that I was displaying until I understood really what God was putting in my heart during those times. I remember my older brother, we lived in and out of red Astro vans, and then eventually upgraded to a turquoise Windstar van, and with a little bit more space. But again, like, I remember sitting in the back, laying down on one of the beds of my vehicle, my parents' van, and just looking up at the ceiling of the van saying, man, I know there's something more to life to this. I know that this ain't just about the struggle. And I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know who I was praying to at the time, but I knew deep down inside that there was way more to life than this.
Yeah.
So eventually that led to, that was essentially the day-to-day struggle. Homelessness. We slept on park benches. We bathed in the local park restroom, and then attended elementary and middle school right up the road. And that was a part of the daily struggle for, honestly, up until I was 13 years old. And this was literally the lowest point in my life as a teenager, but it also was the most defining moment in my life. September 17th, 2000.
And what particularly about that date was the pivot, the change, the level up, or what brought greater awareness? What was that?
At that moment in time, my older brother and I, we were living in a group home for battered teenagers. The second piece, my mother, who struggled severely with untreated and undiagnosed mental illness, was running the streets. And obviously you can imagine when we see people who just feel disconnected and lost out in these streets, and I always see that, and I think of my mom, because that was, in that point in time, was where she was at. She was, I didn't know when we would see her again. So my mom is struggling, God knows where, doing God knows what. The third piece was my oldest brother, too, was also expected to do a long bid behind bars due to a strong armed robbery case. And the final thing that just became, the final nail in the coffin for me was finding out that my father passed at 13 years old. And literally the lowest point of my teenage life. At 13 years old, I tell everybody, it wasn't the bottom of the barrel. We were outside underneath the barrel.
Yeah.
But again, I remember it to this day. My older brother, Louie, and I, right in front of our group home was a wooden bench. And when we found out the news about my father's passing, we sat in that wooden bench and we cried and comforted one another for hours. Cried, comforted, cried, comforted. He was there for me, I was there for him. That's all it was, for hours. We had to let all of this out. Years and years of trauma, years and years of lived experiences and adversity. Cried and comforted. At the end of that, my brother and I, we made a pact to each other. We said, look, there literally is no way to go but up. We are literally at the lowest point of our lives. And this is our time. We could either pivot, we could respond, we could dial in, we can focus on whatever we feel will allow us to bring strength and courage into our family name and our name, because at that point, because of my parents and their struggles, there was a black sheep mentality to my family. Or we can do something else.
Very good. So we talk about that, and I think athletes get that, and a lot of great entrepreneurs and leaders in general get that. What happens to you matters, but how you respond to what happens to you matters more. Talk about that. At the lowest low, now what did you do to respond? And people go, so what do you mean by respond? Okay, according to your joy, peace, happiness, fulfillment, love, or family time? Or you can whine, complain, and blame, right? And go negative, subscribe to your haters and your own self-doubt. How did you respond?
For me, and I know this is not an individual experience, but it's also an experience of many of our Pacific Islander communities who experience similar yet different events like this. But man, I hyper-focused on sports. That was the outlet. I was like, okay, I started in football, I started in basketball, started in track, all the way through high school, and nothing could stop me, nothing. It was just this deep, deep intrinsic desire to fulfill something in myself that I had no idea what the gap was. I'm just like, hey, I've been through a lot. I know I'm learning from those, but also this is gonna be the way that I pivot. And ultimately, football became what stuck. And at the end of my junior year, received my first full ride athletic scholarship from University of Nebraska in my junior year.
That's huge now, because I'm a football guy, and Nebraska and the Cornhuskers are like, so in the 90s, right, they had like Lawrence Phillips. He came from a group home, right, and he had some challenges, and he's gone through some stuff. But I mean, Nebraska was huge back in the 90s when I was younger. When me and your cousin, Big Pun, I used to roll around Pomona, Walnut area back in JC. So that's a huge feat. And did anyone in your experience ever get a scholarship offer or anything like that prior?
I had some older cousins that typically, went through the junior college route and eventually received like scholarships, 4-year scholarships from the JUCO path. And yeah, for me, just at the end of my junior year, just was fortunate enough to get some national attention where Nebraska happened to be a school that pulled the trigger on me. And so, as you can imagine, being a football junkie, right? Yeah. Once that first big time offer drops.
Yes, the next dominoes start to fall, yes.
And a handful of other schools offer scholarships, but for me being a loyal individual, I stayed loyal to so I said, you know what, University of Nebraska, I'm verbally committing to you guys at the end of my junior year. And for me, I needed to endure that, I needed to experience it because I could mentally just check that box in my mind. Okay, the next 4 years of my life is set. I go to Lincoln, Nebraska, I ball out and go straight to the NFL. That was the direct path that in my heart, in my mind, I thought was the path to get to where I felt like I needed to go. Yeah. Obviously, you know where this is going. You know when God has
so
his
talk
way.
About that.
Yeah, for sure.
In terms of, I think there are some needs that you were trying to meet. You just weren't a bad person. 100%. But sometimes, just like all of us, right? I mean, a crime is a crime, doing wrong is wrong. There's no way around that. Yeah. But there are certain justifications why some people do it and why some don't. So tell the audience what came next. You're at the University of Nebraska, full ride scholarship, one of the best athletes at your position, right? Getting recruited, Arizona State, you're getting all these calls from all these places, but you go there, and then what happens next while on campus?
It actually happened my senior year. Right? Again, having this athletic scholarship, verbally committing, and all I had to do was get through high school. I just had to graduate. Right. Just had to go through my senior year, stay the straight and narrow, just get there. I had to get to the finish line, graduation day. And my senior year was the very first time that I was away from my brothers. I'm the youngest of 3 boys. I always looked up to them, always followed what they did. They were no longer in that place. And at the same time, my mother, who I mentioned, was beginning to become more stabilized, and she was in and out of inpatient psychiatric units all throughout high school. My senior year was her first time where she got to be in her own place. And I knew that I was getting ready to leave to Lincoln soon, so I'm like, okay, Mom, I'm gonna move in with you, let's figure this out. And obviously, looking back at it, that became some of the overwhelming challenges that I didn't know how to deal with. And so the financial pressures came up, we're struggling, and obviously somebody who had easily influenced eyes, and honestly,
and young, 18 years old.
100, yeah, I was 17 at that time.
17 years old? That's young.
Respectfully speaking, man, I let a lot of this national attention get to my head, and it just became someone that I'm really not. I started mistreating people. I started manipulating folks, like just out of survival mode, because like I have one goal, and that's to get to the league. And anybody who's in my way, respectfully speaking, I gotta do what I have to do. But that was out of survival mode, and lo and behold, struggling financially. And my easily influenced eyes, I ended up being around, some folks that I probably shouldn't have been around, and they slid me a bag of pills. Like, hey, you need some money? Well, here's a way out. Easily influenced, cool. Let me pivot this. And so, when your back is against the wall, like many of us, there's 2 different responses. You could either freeze, or you can just fight, or you can flee it. And for me, I'm like, I'm a fighter. So naturally.
And this was the avenue you thought that was the problem to us, the solution to a problem, financial problem.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I can make this fast money, I can make this quick money, I can go on from there. So I started selling Percocets on my high school campus. And it was going on for several weeks. And I sell it to kids on campus, I go and re-up, I break off moms, and do the same thing, rinse and repeat every day.
And you do some spending on yourself, because that's what young guys do. Come on, let's be real.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you know, just lunch at the time. I buy my own lunch. You know,
Get
that
some
was
kicks, a little hats, nothing.
Yeah, not really. But it was more about trying to pay bills. We were on back pay on that,
awesome.
And so it's like, my mom started wondering, where is this money coming from? I'm saying, don't trip, moms, we got it, and rinse and repeat. And I remember to this day, Wednesday morning. It was on a Wednesday morning, my senior year of high school. I'm getting ready to leave for school, and I have an empty pill bottle in my front pocket, and it just falls on the ground. And I'm at my mom's apartment, and she sees it. She says, son, what is that? And I'm like, oh, you know, I made some lousy excuse. It's just some sleeping pills or something. Like, I needed to help me sleep, something like that. And you know a mother's intuition, a Polynesian mother's intuition. She peeped game off top. She's like, son, don't do that. You're going to get caught. I storm out the door. Oh, I got it, Mom. We're good. 4 hours later, in my 4th period class, was the moment that my mom was trying to warn me of. I fall asleep. I wake up moments later, and the campus security is standing, hovering over me. Manu, I went by Jake at the time, my middle name, which is a whole cultural identity piece. So we can save for the next Coach V episode.
Yeah.
We need you to come to the assistant principal's office, bring your belongings. And as we're going to the assistant principal's office, I'm starting to freak out and panic. Oh my gosh, somebody ratted me out. Somebody snitched on me. I get there, I have a really close relationship with the assistant principal's name. Her name is Mrs. Carlson. We small talk for a moment. How you doing? She's like, oh, great to see you. And she says, oh, well, somebody has sent an anonymous response saying that you have something on you that you shouldn't be having. And I'm trying to charm my way out of this point. She's like, I'm like, come on, Mrs. Carlson, like, really? And she's like, I know, she's buying it at this moment.
Yeah.
I know, but we, you know, kids are crazy these days. But let's just frisk your belongings, and we'll let you go on about your way.
Yeah, because she has to do her due diligence as an administrator, right? 100%. Yeah.
And so lo and behold, the first thing they checked was my backpack. They opened that first pocket, and out is the empty pill bottle that my mother was talking about 4 hours earlier. So they put it on the counter. At that point, I'm freaking out, I'm panicking. Now I'm overly agreeable. So every question that they're asking now, from a legal standpoint, they're just building a case against me. I don't know this, I'm 17 years old.
Yeah.
Were you selling these pills on this campus? Yes, just overly agreeable. They pull out my wallet, it's a wad of cash. Were you using this cash? Did you get this cash from selling these pills on this campus? Yes. And then, you know, they found my pills, the bag of pills in my left tube sock. I used to always wear these tube socks. And they opened my pockets, they frisked my right leg, didn't find anything, and left leg unraveled, big bag of pills. And again, they asked the same, did you use these pills to get this money on this campus? Yes. Lo and behold, in a space where I thought that I had that 4-year scholarship that was ready for me just a couple months away, that was replaced with 4 counts of felony. As a 17-year-old. Life just flashed in front of me. Oh my gosh. But I looking back at it, the deep reflection point, like I mentioned earlier, man, I became a part of me that I wasn't. I was mistreating people. I was manipulating people. I was doing what I needed to do in a very selfish way. And God needed to humble me. He's like, I thought you could handle what I gave you. It's clear that you can't, so let me take it from underneath you.
Right. And then so what happened because of that?
Yep.
And what did you have to pay? What price had to be paid?
Yep. So my scholarships were rescinded.
Yep.
All of them gone. And just when I thought that I was going to go play big time football in Lincoln, Nebraska, I'm at Phoenix College, a community college, right up to like 3 hours away where my older brother was. So, and what I thought was a downgrade ended up being the blessing because I was back with my brothers. Now I had a little bit of leadership just to cultivate me to be able to make the right choices as I'm on this path. And then from a legal standpoint, I was a part of this diversion program where if you just I had to, check in with a probation officer once a month. I had to pay some $70 fine for 2 years, and I had to stay clean.
Yeah.
And if I stayed clean for 2 years or 24 months, they would wipe my record clean.
That's
so,
awesome.
Lo and behold, was fortunate enough to meet those requirements, and 2 years later, my record was clean.
Okay, so you go to Phoenix JC. Yep. What happens after that?
Went to Georgia State. They were building a program. They actually recruited my older brother, and we both played at Phoenix College together. And we wanted to transfer to a 4-year school together. There were schools that were recruiting him that weren't recruiting me, and vice versa. And Georgia State, building a new program, they happened to be the only school that offered us both a full ride scholarship.
So you can go together.
Easy money,
yeah.
No brainer. We always wanted to experience the Southern hospitality in Atlanta anyway.
Yeah.
And we just jumped and took a leap of faith. And to be honest, a huge part of who I am today is being able to have my best friend by my side, who just happened to be my older brother.
Yeah, that's awesome to have that brother relationship, right? What a blessing.
Yep.
And then so after that, how did the whole NFL thing happen? And talk about the lessons you learned about a big word that people don't use, and they don't like this word in the corporate world, is accountability. Like being accountable for your life. So you had to go through that season of accountability, still ended up going to Georgia State, made it to the league. Catch us up there and talk about how that lesson of accountability helped you be better.
Honestly, man, I'm still learning that, and if you got the secret sauce
both.
to it,
I'm 47,
hey, you let me
I'm
know.
still learning that. And really what it is like decisions determine destiny, and every choice has a consequence, accountability, right? So talk about that and how it is that reflecting back, or either how you live forward from there, how it has helped you get to where you are today. And then talk about the NFL story real quick, please.
Yep. Yes, it's the full circle God moments that I've been referring to.
Say that again. Say that term again. The full
circle God moment.
Yeah.
You heard it here first on Coach V Show.
Yeah, that's a good term. I love that term.
But my opportunity in the NFL came out of a full circle God moment. I was invited on a rookie mini camp, 40 guys there, undrafted, and veterans who were just looking for an opportunity. I happened to be one of 3 guys that were signed out of 40. And so instantaneously, I go from being a small school kid out of Georgia State to the New York Giants. I'm in the locker room with everybody who's from all these.
And you made the roster.
This is leading up to that.
Yeah.
That was also at a point in my life where emotionally, it was a challenge. I was a wreck up here. A lot of these insecurities started to surface for me, being from my background and having these lived experiences that I hadn't really truly resolved, and they showed itself when I got to where I felt like I was supposed to be at, the NFL. And ultimately what that did was, I'm such a gregarious kid. I'm a happy-go-lucky person. My number one.
For this tongue in Polynesian, where English is my second language, define gregarious for me.
Yeah, it's you're open, you're expressive,
yes.
You are happy-go-lucky, you're somebody that's freely expressed.
That's us,
100%,
right there.
yeah.
That's us, yeah.
And my number one strength is I'm an includer. Right? So if I'm around in a circle group of people and I see somebody at the corner of the room who's by themselves, I'm gonna walk over there, introduce myself, and I'm gonna invite them to the group.
Yeah.
But being that includer also came through pain of knowing what it feels like to be on the opposite side.
Real talk.
So
say that again. Being an includer. Say that whole phrase again.
Okay, I'm gonna do my best. My number one strength is that I'm an includer. I know what it feels like to be isolated, to be excluded. Right. And so anytime I'm in an environment where I feel, just even remotely, that somebody might feel excluded, I will take the necessary effort to go over there, all the way across the room, wherever I'm at, and I will introduce myself and I will invite them into the crew.
Yeah, because we do that for the person, but we also do that because that's us.
100%. Exactly.
Right?
And so I'm in the cafeteria one day in the New York Giants facility in East Rutherford, New Jersey. There's only 2 of us in there. It's me, and there's this woman sitting all the way in the back of the cafeteria, sitting alone. So me being me, I walk all the way over there and I introduce myself. Hey, this is me. This is where I'm from. I'm a rookie, da-da-da. And she introduces herself. My name is Dr. Denise Johnson, and I am the team psychologist. Doc, I got a lot going on in my head.
Yeah.
And
I need to see you.
100%. I see that it is negatively affecting my performance. For me, it was never physical. I knew I had the talent. But what ultimately led to an early exit out of the NFL for me was up here. I didn't have it up here. I end up in a conversation randomly because I'm just being gregarious to somebody who I feel like may be excluded. She's like, I'm the team psychologist. Doc, how do I schedule a session with you? How does this work?
Yeah.
Lo and behold, over the next month, we had a handful of counseling sessions. And there were two things that were revealed to me during those sessions. One was I had an hour-long scheduled appointment every week where the only objective was for me to show up and to externalize my internal. Brain dump, boom, with a highly trained and confidentially trained professional whose number one job is to listen and to pick up the pieces and reflect back in a way that allows me to just keep going. And
be
she gives me,
non-judgmental.
come on, and be and provide insight and perspective and wisdom. That was the first thing. But the second thing, full circle God moment for you right here, that was when my purpose was birthed. It's like, oh, I know exactly what I'm gonna do when I'm done playing football. Whether it's another day or whether it's another 2 decades. When I'm done, I know exactly what I'm doing. And the reason being is because I know I'm not the only one struggling in silos. I was like, I know there's a locker room full of men who are dealing with what I'm dealing with now. I just happened to stumble on the team psychologist who helped supported me. But I knew also you take it further back. There is a league full of locker rooms that are dealing with the same things that I'm dealing with. There is a society full of people who are struggling in silos. And that ultimately birthed my purpose. Bounced around the Giants a couple of times. I was signed and re-signed and cut a handful of times during that process. I was a bottom of the roster guy, a little bit on the practice squad, played in the CFL for a couple of years, and then tore my Achilles tendon. And that was like the last straw. I said, okay, time to pivot. I see what you're telling me, God. Now it's time to move on. Led me to graduate school where I finished that master's in sport and performance psychology in the Bay Area. And on my last year in my doctorate in clinical psych. And I knew once I started graduate school that I wanted to be a sports psychologist for an NFL team. I knew. I wanted to be the Dr. Denise Johnson for somebody else in the same way that she was for me in my heart. Honestly, I just didn't know that it would happen this way. This is the God factor, right? I'm thinking I had to go to grad school, I had to get all these degrees and this education, and then I had to go the interview process, the traditional route, and God is saying, no, I got you. And here I am. Approaching the last year of my doctorate. And I'm going into my 3rd year as a mental performance coach with an NFL team.
That's amazing.
It is only by God that I'm sitting here getting a chance to
and a whole lot of individual work and perseverance. So that's awesome. In terms of taking that entire journey that we covered over just about 20 minutes, what would be your message to the world? Take that camera too.
I'm going to put myself on game right here, and if it resonates with you, you take the game and apply it into your life. Who I am today is a culmination of everybody that has poured into me throughout my entire life. So even as I'm sitting here talking to you right now, this ain't really me. This is the culmination of the village that has prayed for me, that has supported me, that has loved me, that has poured into me in a space when I didn't know what I was pouring into myself, when I didn't have anything left in the tank. Find who your village is. The second piece, for me, it's always has and always will be a God thing for me. Who I am and who I'm called to be right now, it's never been about arrogance, it's always been about Godfidence. And if you're interpreting these words as arrogance, respectfully speaking, you are missing the point. You are missing the point. But I also know that I have to stay true to who I'm supposed to be. I have to. And no disrespect, but you just haven't, if you're viewing my words as arrogance, you just haven't gone through your journey to understand and accept how I'm operating from this place of Godfidence. But it's okay, no love lost. We're gonna come back around for you. You just have to go through your own journey to get there. But I say this all the time, I'm on mission, I'm not on a mission. Find your gift, identify it, cultivate it, and give it away. Peace.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And also, if you would, Tell the audience how they can get a hold of you, how they can email you. What's the website? Please share that. Please.
Sure, yeah. I'm on social at Manu Mental _
Yeah, I'm checking that right now. As you're saying it, go ahead, get it.
Just also launched a company called Monumental. You can find the website at manumental.com. There's a free resource that I've developed as a cultivation of me, and it's basically my self-care ritual that I've developed over the last couple of years. And it's a bunch of brain and body-based exercises that helps me relieve stress, tension, and pressure, but also helps me to get into this peak performance mode, this flow state. The energy that you are experiencing through the lens, the energy that we're all experiencing through me, a part of it is in me, but a part of it is cultivated. And so go to monumental.com, shameless plug here, and download the free resource of how I stay hyper-focused on mission.
No, that's amazing. And here's a quick question before we finish off here. So many of the companies that I coach, teach, keynote speak to, they're always looking for that one thing. And I think mindset is amazing. And to me, in my coaching approach, that mindset is the starter. You could have the most amazing vehicle, engine, seats, paint, all that. But unless you have a starter that could ignite and start everything, there is no movement, there's no traveling, there's none of that, right? Yeah. So I say there's at least 5 things that I would always challenge people to level up in, despite the industries that they're in. The first one is how you think, right? So it goes how you think, how you feel, what you do, how you see things, and how you say things. Translated professionally to what I coach, teach, and train is mindset, emotional intelligence, performance, perspective, and effective communication. So whether you're with the United States Secret Service, who I've been with, Farmers Insurance, who I've been with, Dunkin' Donuts, Jack in the Box, Corner Bakery, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, there are some things, but yes, mindset matters. Yeah. But without action, activity, discipline, and consistency into the marketplace or your field of work, you now minimize the ability to cash out, make profits, have influence, and grow your brand. Your thoughts on that? You got a minute. What are your thoughts?
I say this all the time. I'm not black and white or here nor there. I don't operate in the extremes a lot. Because really, we're humans, we're more complicated. We operate somewhere in the middle, and there are times where we're on this side of the spectrum and times we're on the other.
Actually, everything is simplistic until you add humans into the equation. Go on,
100%.
Keep going. Because that's when everything gets complicated. Go ahead.
Chewing me up. But there's one thing that I am on the extreme to, and it's speaking to the question that you're asking, is when it comes to how you speak to yourself and others, I'm black and white about that. And I literally believe that you are either speaking life into yourself or others, or you speaking death into yourself or others. And for everybody that's witnessed being around me, life already reminds you of all this. Like in society, as Pacific Islanders, when you feel me, the energy you feel is life.
Yeah, real
talk. It's gonna be through my words, it's gonna be through my faith, it's gonna be through all of that. So that contributes to the mindset thing. That's how I view life. I don't do it, but that's.
Very good. And one more question. We got to fit this in. Because with effective communication, which I call the sending and or receiving information in the way that it was intended.
Yes.
Right? Does that happen often in the corporate world? I'm saying anywhere between 90% of the time there's miscommunication, depending on what industry you're in, company, the culture, and the people. But the first part of effective communication that I coach, teach, and train, which most people that are, my counterparts in the industry, they talk about listening. Yeah. And I get all that. But to me, self-talk is the number one effective communication that all the champions that I've ever been around have in Fortune 1,500, 100 companies. That they have a deal that's, however they call it, but I call it LUF. Listen, understand, and formulate. Not just listen, but to listen in terms of what Stephen Covey calls listen with the intent to understand, not just to reply, right? And then formulate, meaning write a rough draft, because if you don't do so, once you can delete the tweet, right? Yeah. You can apologize for the messed up email, but unless you take that route, I find that the people that operate on that modem can level up, can actually survive and thrive in any industry that they go in because their self-talk is positive and it's upbuilding, uplifting. They listen, understand, and try to formulate, and they're great at trying to understand. And then when they do talk, that they convey according to who the receiver or the recipient of the information, meaning audience. Am I anywhere near, Doctor, how it is that you would approach it in the NFL?
1,000%. Two thoughts. One, I need to get a part of this coaching program, because what you're doing and what describing, unbelievable, unreal. The second piece, and this is just more to peel back the layer of what you talk about, is self-talk, right? If we peel that back a little bit more, in my interpretation, it's like there's the transparent element of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like I got to be true to myself, but I also have to be transparent with how I'm feeling. And if I don't know what I'm dealing with in here, then it's difficult to convey that to whoever.
Call Keep It 100 by my kids, right? They call Keep It 100, yeah,
exactly. But I think the self-talk piece stands out to me, because I'm like, okay,
That's
if we ravel that back, it's literally like, can I be completely honest and transparent with what I need to convey here and convey it there? And if I can't do that, then now lines of communication are going to be missed.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
That's right. And then lastly, it's like, I can be 100 and I can keep it real, and I'm willing to live with the consequences
There it is.
if this is successful or a failure.
Yep.
Wow. Lastly on that, and we're out.
You're absolutely right. Like you got to operate from who you're called to be first. And if not, if you fit in the box of somebody else's interpretation or communication style, again, you're not being who you're supposed to be called to be. And that's where effective communication gets confusing.
Man, thanks for coming on the show.
It's love.
Yeah. Island City, we're going to have to shoot a Netflix special about you and me just rapping for like hours. And it's going to go episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. Then we need to be at the Tennessee Titans with some kids that we're doing a free camp for, and then connecting the dots so that people can understand it. Because, hey, it don't have to make sense. You're looking at a Tongan brother and a Samoan brother who grew up. Hacienda Heights is the 60 freeway down from Pomona, right? And even though I didn't know, or we didn't know how we were going to do it, it wasn't logical. But we said, there is something out there that I can do, and I can get this thing done. Real talk or not?
Full circle God moment. Exactly.
Full circle God moment. So thank you so much. Thank you to our guy.
Deeply grateful, bro, to be able to just have this conversation and humanizing our experiences.
Yeah, I'm trying to say we're proud of you, because that's why this platform in Island City is around, and our boy Q and Ammon are always talking about community, culture, and what's the last one, Q? Connection and engagement. Because what he was talking about in terms of his tribe and his vibe and being around people, Coach V quote, there's money in the transaction, but the wealth is in the relationships. And that's how we rock, vibe, and we roll. And Q says it all the time right now, right? Like, we do business, we collaborate, and we do community with people that do dope shit and are dope people. And because we want to do dope shit and be around dope people too. So thank you so much for tuning in to the Coach V Show. Shout out to our gal out there in Santa Monica. Sylvia, you know who you are. Much love and respect, and thank you for everything. And I also want to shout out Famecast and Dash Radio Studios, Island City. We always keep it real. Thank you so much. And we just don't do and rock like this just for the sake of you being successful, but for the sake that you be your best. In doing so, you realize the best of your abilities, and that anything that you dream, work, and pray for can be achieved. This is how your boy, soon to be Dr. Manu, and your boy Coach V lives. All about faith and family. Grateful for God's amazing grace. Until next time, Island City, we out. Peace. Woo-hoo.